What's going on, Legionnaires, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Now, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that sub button and hit that notification bell. Do me a big solid, help this channel grow, and today's video, we're going to be diving into something new. Now, we've covered this issue, this line, because of the King in Black, but it intrigued me so much that I felt like picking it up. Now, I haven't been really following most of the line, so I am going to have to go back, I'm going to have to do some rereading, see exactly how we got to where we are right now. So this video is going to be Daredevil. Daredevil issue number 28. Right after he was taken over by one of the symbiotes. And right now, Daredevil's in prison. He's sitting there of his own free will, more or less. He didn't have to do this. He's more or less choosing to face his consequences. And while he's in there, Elektra is taking up the mantle of Daredevil. Now, while we're covering Daredevil, I also wanted to mention that we are going to be covering the Eternals. Issue number 3 dropped today, and so tomorrow I'm more than likely going to end up putting out a video that covers issues 1 through 3 of the Eternals, getting us completely caught up on everything that's going on with that line. And with that being said, let's dive into this issue. Alright, so this issue picks us up with Elektra, and she's sitting here working out, just, throwing some haymakers onto this punching bag. And this is when she goes and checks on Alice to see how Alice is doing. And at the same time, across town, we have FISK sitting in the hospital, waiting to hear the results of what happened to Mary, because she was taken over by the symbiotes. And so the doctor lets him know that Mary was left wondering what exactly happened, unable to really recollect much of the events, which seems to be the case with most individuals that were taken over by the symbiotes. But with her history of mental health, they're concerned with the lasting effects. And this is where Fisk tells the doctor thank you, and then goes into the room and says it's Wilson. But really, you could see the concern on his face. And it's one amazing thing to be able to take a character like Fisk and be able to really make you have empathy for him. Like, he truly does care for Mary. And you can feel that just in the way that he's drawn. But we're going to see it more in the dialogue as it moves forward. And this is where we see Daredevil sitting down with Kristen. And she sees that his face is just rough, and asks if he's okay, because whatever happened to him, it doesn't look good. Now, cutting back to Elektra, she's trying to wake Alice up, thinking to herself how this girl, she's doomed. Doomed to the system. The woman who died was her foster mother, and this girl's alone. And if anybody understands alone, it's Elektra. But she doesn't understand weakness. She's commanded others. She's been responsible for strong individuals, but she's never been responsible for the weak. And there's so many weak. And she's constantly left questioning, how does Matthew do this? Day in and day out. How does he be the Daredevil? And then we see Fisk waiting patiently for Mary to wake up. And she slowly comes to consciousness, saying that she felt whole. After the battle in Hell's Kitchen, she had felt more herself than she had ever felt in years. There was a kind of harmony between her sides. And then when she was taken over by the symbiote, it was like a third voice, trying to control everything. And she lets Fisk know that she can't do this anymore. She can't do this alone anymore. And Fisk tells her that she's not. Now, picking back up in the prison with Daredevil and Kristen, and she lets him know, I can tell you're not okay. Not just physically, but mentally, you're definitely not okay. We could have won this case. You chose to go to prison. And he keeps telling himself it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And she just, what are you doing? What are you doing, Matthew? You think the right thing to do is to take a cell and do prison service because you have something to prove. Nobody really understands why you're here. And her job is to keep people out of prison because it doesn't help them. He knows that better than anybody else because he puts criminals away time after time. The system is for show, and you're a part of that system. You're a part of that show right now. And she apologizes for getting angry. She just needs to know, what exactly is he doing here? And this makes him question, what is he really doing here? And this is when You know, it picks up a little bit later and it's lunchtime and he sees Marcus and goes and sits down with him and goes to ask him the question. You know, he said, the other day you said to me, being here for my full term was more of a fantasy. And what did you mean by that? And Marcus is just like, no, like I'm not doing this today. I'm not going to sit here and educate you. I saved your life. People are sitting around calling me your bitch now. Like, I'm kind of good. Like, you take care of this thing. You figure it out on your own. And as he's sitting here trying to contemplate all of this stuff going on, this is when nervous Neil makes his way over to him, and he's just really like, oh man, like I can't handle this right now. This guy's like a murderer. I don't really want to hang out with him. I don't want to hear anything he has to say. And he goes to try to leave without feeling guilty about it. But this is when the guard comes up and tells him that Dr. Hayes wants to see him. So kind of giving him a scapegoat of being able to get out of this situation. And this is when we pick up with Dr. Hayes. And Dr. Hayes asks the simple question, and the question that everybody has been asking him is, are you okay? And she says, the invasion, it looks like it took quite the beating on you. And he says that he'll heal. And he continues to say that he's fine. You know, you say you're fine enough times, eventually, we just believe that you're trying to convince yourself. And that's what she said. Like, you're in prison, wearing a mask, and I'm supposed to call you Daredevil. And then you were possessed by an alien that you removed by electrocuting yourself in an electric chair. I would hardly call that even close to okay. And she goes on to say, you know, I'm checking in on you because of traumatic events, but this is also the first official session between therapist and patient. And he just says it again, I'm fine. And she's like, you're not. And I'll be honest, treating you would be normally a psychiatrist's dream or a psychotherapist's dream. But really, she's not in the mood. Like, she's here to help people who have been forcibly put here, had their freedom removed. This place is filled with people who only knew inequality and now are being helped, quote unquote, by putting them in the most unequal place imaginable, reminding them of that fact. And she's supposed to prepare them to go back into the civilized world, where they'll live day-to-day lives and try to kind of have some kind of normalcy. But him, he chose to be here. He's an inequality tourist under the cover that he wants to be treated equal. And he goes to tell her she's wrong, and she's just like, no. Like, you're here facing consequences only because it suits you in this current time. And she lets him know, like, I have many of my own issues about this place and your involvement with it. But both here in the prison and out there, sending people my way. But he's here now, and she's going to do what she can to help him. And also letting him know they should have sought out a therapist on the outside. Most of the guys don't have this kind of opportunity. And Daredevil, he trying to kind of clarifies things. He said, I'm choosing to be here because I know it's right. He believes this to be the right thing, and that he's facing his consequences. And she chose to be here because of the flawed system. And she kind of just like, all right, I'll see you in a couple days, Daredevil. And he goes out, making his way to the showers, only to see Neil getting beat up for even talking to Daredevil. And Daredevil interjects and dismantles these three in the good old-fashioned Daredevil way, beating the crap out of them. And then the guards come in, only to see all three knocked out, and Daredevil with his hands behind his head and knees on the ground. And we see Daredevil in his bunk, tired, exhausted, nothing ever letting up. Everything is a fight. And here he can't sleep in this place. The sounds, he hears the warden telling the guards that he doesn't want Daredevil protected. Here's Marcus having a nightmare. He hears Neil trying to silence his sobs. He hears broken people in a broken place. And then he hears a guard call his name, letting him know that the doctor wants to see him. And the doctor pretty much is like, you know, this isn't a session, but I wanted you to know before the warden really started to grind in on you, and that yesterday he was involved in this incident, and in this incident he helped Neil out. Well, today they found Neil dead in his cell. Now, at first he thinks, you know, this was some kind of revenge or something of that nature for hanging out with Daredevil or even talking to him. But the doctor reassures him that it was a suicide. He'd been having problems, and not just with Danny and his crew. He just had a lot of issues. And Daredevil feels responsible and says, you know, this is his fault. He put him here. And the doctor says, no, you didn't. Like, I've read his file, and he had been caught by Spider-Man. But Daredevil thinks to himself, he had been prosecuted by Murdock. And so, in theory, he is responsible, as much as Spider-Man would be. And the doctor asks if he's okay, and for the first time, Matt says, no, I'm not. And then we pick up with Fisk. And Fisk is letting us know that he is tired as well. Every time he feels like he secured the city, his position, he's reminded that he lives in the middle of a lake with a springtime exhaling towards him. Daredevil, the aliens, everything that's coming is making him look weak. And he is tired of looking weak. He may not be able to punch monsters and cripple billionaires, but there are things he can control. And so he says, let's go kill us, Daredevil. Both of them. And this is where we see Elektra comforting Alice to the best of her ability. But this is Elektra at the end of the day. And Elektra even tells her, like, just shut up. Like, I have neither the stomach nor the time for this. I lost both of my parents, and you have my sympathies. If I were a better person, I'd hold you and I'd let you know that this is all going to be okay and pay for your ever-ending therapy. But it's not your fault, and I've killed people, slid that blade in. That's what you know. That's when you know it's your fault. You're sad now, and you'll move past this. And soon, you'll be angry. And when you're finally angry, come find me in the gym. And this is when we see Daredevil. And Marcus comes and sits down with him, letting him know what happened to Neil sucks. And then continues to say that he's got to figure a guy like him has been through some shit. And he asks him, like, are you okay? And Daredevil says no. And he thinks to himself, I'm not okay. I know this now, but even worse. And this is where he tells Marcus that he's just been poisoned. And that will be where this issue ends. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Personally, I thoroughly enjoyed this issue. It was a lot of fun, a lot of emotion. It was Daredevil truly in denial of him not being okay. And sometimes it's okay to not be okay. And that's what he's trying to fight and trying to deny for so long, trying to make himself believe that he's okay. But the reality is, he is the furthest thing from okay, and he is this close from a mental breakdown. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Be sure to check out Eternals issues 1 through 3. They're going to be dropping tomorrow. And until the next video.